All right, everyone, let's get started. I want to thank you all for joining today and joining our webinar on disclosure reporting, easing the burden of reporting and using disclosure reporting. We will get started with this, and I want to thank everybody. One of the things that we see as we go through the meetings that we've had and attending demonstrations and workshops is one of the big issues that we hear about every day is disclosure reporting. And at the end of the day, of course, all of these ASC regulations, whether it's 606 or 842, the rubber meets the road, or the proof is in the pudding, or whatever, when it comes to disclosure reporting. And although it may be quite simple or low impact from a materiality perspective on your revenues, the reality is that disclosure reporting for the new ASC 606 and 842 regulations will be quite complicated. And what Bramasol has done is taken a look at the different types of disclosures that are required and prepared a set of reports and dashboards that can help you create and ease the burden of reporting, as well as create insight to action. A couple of quick housekeeping items. As you can see on the screen here, we are recording the webinar, so it will be available early next week for you to download and share from the website. You are welcome to ask questions throughout the session, and we encourage you to do so. There is a question panel, as you can see on this screen, where you can ask questions, and I or someone from the panel will answer those questions, or we'll follow up subsequent to this broadcast with you and answer specific questions. Again, we are available in social media. You can tweet us at hashtag RevRecReady. And we also encourage you to download our previous webinars from our home page. We have a lot of great information, both ebooks, webinars, and other information that can help you understand what we're doing and what is required from the perspective of disclosure reporting, dual reporting, etc. So with that, I am going to turn this webinar over to my distinguished colleague, Trevor Lovegrove, who is the head of our product unit and has done some tremendous work on developing our disclosure reports. And he will be working with two of our development team members here in the US and over in India. So Trevor, I turn the keys over to you, and go for it.
Thank you, John. Welcome everybody to the webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I hope you're going to enjoy our session today. Just to start off, just to frame this a little bit, as we've been talking to a whole number of prospects and clients, three major topics come up in conversation. How do I integrate RER and my environment with the rest of my infrastructure and architecture? Then the second point is coming up, which is how do I report? How am I going to be doing my financial reporting? How does this impact me? And then the third part is transition, which is how do I move from my existing environment to RER, my new environment? Well, today, pretty obviously, we're going to be focusing on the second of those items, which is reporting. And the first important thing that's coming up with our discussions with prospects and clients is that more and more this discussion is coming up much earlier in the conversation. Whereas previously, and with our existing clients, reporting, disclosure reporting, really wasn't coming up in our conversation through the initial implementation, except as maybe as a side conversation. Now more and more, it's almost the first question out of our prospects and clients' mouth is, how do I do this? So clearly, the importance of disclosure reporting is becoming much more critical in people's minds, and it's something that you should be bearing in mind as something that cannot be pushed to the end of a project, or even to the point where you're looking at your first formal reporting process. It needs to be dealt with and discussed much earlier in the process. And to that end, Bramasol have been and have developed some deliverables which is going to help accelerate and move you forward in that process to make your lives a lot easier and the burden of creating disclosure reports that much lighter. And bearing in mind, this is a very complex change to your organization, potentially. Anything that can make your life easier, I'm sure, is very welcome. So I'm just going to first take you through the regulations themselves and what we've done. And then at the end of that, I'm going to hand over to my colleagues to actually do a short demonstration of exactly how you can use the tools and products that we've developed. Okay, so the first thing is you'll start to see, if you're in this area at all, you're starting to see a lot of communication, both in the press and in various forums, about the importance of this change. It basically can impact you a lot, can impact you a little, but it's going to impact you. So you need to understand how it affects you. So this is just an example of a quote from a presentation made by the SEC Chief Accounting Officer at Bloomberg. And as you can see, the first statement it makes is the changes in the new revenue standard will impact nearly every company. And so you have to be aware of that. So even if you don't think it affects you or impacts you, you need to check. Second thing is the related disclosures may be material. And again, there are lots of questions around that. You need to validate that through your due process. So essentially, be aware of that. Always make sure you look. And if you determine that there is a material change for you, then we can certainly help. And even if the changes themselves to your organization may not be material, the reporting is still valid, and we can help you with this information that we're going to present today and the product that we've developed, help you with that disclosure reporting right up front. So let's talk about what we're doing here from a reporting perspective. There's essentially two major strands of activity. The first one is, how do I manage my business? And we've been working on producing operational reports such as waterfall reports, unrecognized revenue reports, and we're adding some more reconciliation reports as we talk to our prospects and clients about their particular needs all the time. So we're constantly adding to the manage the business side of operational reports. On the second side, which is the comply with the law side, obviously now you're still producing your statutory reports, your 10Ks, your 10Qs, and so on and so forth. And what we've focused in on here is that bottom pile of notes and disclosures. So within the regulatory requirements for disclosure reporting, there's essentially two elements. The first element, which is your quantitative reports, which is actually providing the numbers fairly obviously. And we have in Bramasol developed a package that addresses the quantitative reporting requirements for the disclosure reporting regulation. In addition to that, a lot of the other regulations are qualitative in nature, and those are really just explanatory notes for the quantitative numbers. So they basically explain, why the numbers are what they are, and how your organization has addressed the requirements of the regulations. So essentially, the reporting consists of 23 sections and 5 categories. There's multiple reports required under each section, and we've broken them down into, again, those piles of quantitative, qualitative, and there's a couple that are in the mixed category where there's a bit of both. Essentially, the requirements are not dependent on industry. They are purely broken down into public business entities and for not-for-profit business entities. We haven't yet addressed the not-for-profit business entity. That's something that if you are a non-for-profit, we can certainly just sit down and discuss with you what the particular requirements are, but we haven't developed anything in this package that addresses that. Now, in addition to that, what's coming up beyond the public reporting requirements, clearly the regulation is starting to address private organizations, and we are looking at if there are any differences between the reporting requirements for private and public entities. Clearly, the actual requirements in terms of formal reporting will be slightly different, but in terms of what needs to be disclosed, may very well be the same, but we still have to address that, and we'll be dealing with that issue at a later date. Okay, so here are the 5 areas that really need to get addressed within the reporting. There's a mixture of quantitative and qualitative, as I said. But first of all, you've got the disaggregation of revenue. You've got contract balances, performance obligations, significant judgments, and assets recognized for costs to obtain or fulfill contracts. So those are the 5 segments of those reports. And beyond that, we break those down. What we've done is, as you can see, we've identified the specific regulation segment and broken them down into these 3 categories. So you've got the quantitative, qualitative, and mixed. So if you note here, the quantitative ones, reports that we've produced are standard and out the box. There are some customer-specific changes that need to be added, but they can be discussed once the project starts. But the basic structure of the report would remain the same. So that's basically about how we can disaggregate the data or break it down. And that's very specific to each client. The qualitative pieces really need a discussion between you and us about exactly what you need, how you need to break that data down. It's very much down to yourselves as to how you want to disclose your information, what decisions you're making, and so on, so that you can address questions with your auditor. So you can address the reporting requirements very specifically with what the audit needs are. And then you have a few mixed reports which have a little bit of numbers, and then there's some explanation. So there's the breakdown of our reports. And the focus of our attention at this point in time is that the quantitative section from a product delivery perspective, but we will provide advisory services on all of these regulations as you move forward into exploring this area with you. Okay, so breaking them down a little bit more. Here are the actual reports, the disclosure reports that we have created to meet the regulation. As you can see, they cross the whole boundaries of requirements. Excuse me. And what we will be doing is we have produced templates for all of these. These will be made available, and we're going to see an example of those in the demo later, what we've actually produced. And again, these have been produced as a result of our interpretation of the regulation, and these can be taken as is and placed into your implementation to save you the time and effort of going through the process, the discovery process yourself. We can provide that service. Okay, so what are we actually providing? First of all, we're providing advisory service to you to support you in the business in order to understand exactly what is required from your auditor in order to meet the requirements. We have experts, acknowledged experts in this field who can provide you with that information and updates and advice onto exactly how to interpret a particular regulation from your specific situation. We have provided and will provide a collection of the reports, you've already seen the list, meeting those requirements. And finally, we will also provide a service to integrate those reports into your existing reporting environment, whether you have a BI or you're using BW. We will provide advice as to how you can integrate these reports into that environment. And we also are going to provide or able to provide a BW version of the disclosure report. So not only are we producing them in RER, but we'll also be able to produce them and provide them in BW. So that will allow you to integrate them into your existing dashboard or reporting environments so that you can provide a seamless solution for financial accounting organizations. Okay, so that's the end of the walkthrough of what we've done in the overview.
Trevor, before we get started, I have maybe a quick poll as we transition over for folks. So why don't we see how that goes? So folks, I'm going to do a quick poll. If all of you could respond, that would be terrific as we begin the transition process. Here we go. I think. Oh, hang on one second. All right, so we're launching our poll, and as we do that, I will turn control of the screen over to Doug. All right, folks. As we go along, we'll give another minute or two. About 45% of you have voted. We're looking to find out if you haven't started your requirements yet, just setting requirements, completed analysis, or you're an organizer, panelist, or a Bramasol SAP employee. All right, we'll just finish this up in a second. We've got a minute, so we're going to close it up. So thanks, everybody. Just to give you quick results, it looks like approximately 15% of folks haven't even started the disclosure process. 49% are just setting requirements, and 12% of you have completed your analysis, with a bunch of folks who are here from Bramasol and SAP. So this is great timing, and I think it's really insightful information. Hopefully you folks will get something going forward. So Doug, I think you have control, so let's go ahead.
All right, great, thanks John, and thanks Trevor. So today we're going to take the story a little further, as Trevor had mentioned, from what we've done in past webinars. So for some of you who have seen our other webinars, we have already shown disclosure reports, we've shown some of the analytics. Today we're going to bring everything together. So our goal today is to show a live demo scenario where you're looking at RAR analytics. We find a potential issue, dig into it, find a problem, and we go out to RAR. We're going to fix an issue live and go into the analytics tool to see a corrected version of some charts that we're going to be showing you. So before I get into the live part of this webinar, I want to talk a little bit about the architecture that we're using for the.
Hey, Doug. Doug, are you showing your screen?
Yes.
There we go. Now we can see your screen.
Oh, thank you. So, so basically our architecture starts out here with RAR, where we've got the ABAP layer. As mentioned before, we've got 10 disclosure reports built out here. And then we've got BW connected to RAR. It's pulling the data in, and we've got reports built out here for disclosure reporting. And then we have connected to BW is the analytics tool. And our cloud analytics tool is going to pull that data and display various charts. Our tool of choice for today for displaying analytics is going to be SAP's Cloud Analytics tool. But you can use Lumira or any other tool that you may have. Cloud Analytics there we go, is a real-time analytics environment with a range of functionalities. It frees the data that drives your business. It helps you to make data-driven decisions. You can see the data and you can interact with the data, and then make some decisions on what you need to do to correct situations. It's developed on SAP Cloud Platform. It is securely protected. The tool, as with all of SAP's cloud products, is securely protected. Safety of your financial data is a huge concern. And, you know, this is just like any other cloud product that SAP offers. We actually connect the cloud analytics tool to the on-premise systems using a cloud connector and business objects agent. And these are installed on-premise behind the firewall. And then we connect a cloud tool using a reverse proxy technology. So this tool is built for business users, but it does require some experience to obtain maximum benefit. And I'm not going to get into the details today of how to build out these reports. We can do that later in a webinar later on. Today is just to show you some of the functionalities that we can see in there. Our demo scenario is going to start with the head of accounting as he's preparing for a meeting with the CEO over revenue. And he's going to notice that some of the posted revenue is down for May, and he's going to need to ask his finance manager to go look into the issue. The finance manager will go out to RAR, look into some of the contracts, and he's going to find that there's some revenue that hasn't been posted. And he's going to go ahead and post that revenue. And then the head of accounting will go take a look at his charts again, and everything's going to be good there, and he's going to know he's ready to go meet with the CEO. So for today's demo, I am going to play the role of head of accounting, and I'm going to have my colleague Vivek, who's online, he's going to play the role of a finance manager. And so we're going to go ahead and get into the Cloud Analytics tool. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so the Cloud Analytics tool starts out, we're going to be showing you what they call the SAP Digital Boardroom. And this has an agenda, just like any meeting that you would attend. In this case, we're going to be reviewing, we're going to do some overviews of revenue. We're going to be looking at a regulation report, 606-10-50-4A, which is one that was listed on Trevor's previous slides. And the revenue summary and deferred revenue, I believe we've shown these before, but we're not going to get into those today. I'm going to go ahead and open up the overview. So on the overview, I'm going to be, as the head of accounting, I'm going to be looking at our revenue numbers to try and figure out where the revenue is coming from, figure out who our top customers are. So you can see here, I've got a chart with the top 3 revenue customers. This has got some indicators down at the bottom for allocated price and posted revenue for the fiscal year. We can click on these, and the indicators, as you can see below, they change. And as we add more of these bars, we can actually see, well, you know, for this RAR demo customer 3 and 1, you know, the total combined revenue is 20,000. So from here, we can go and take a look at a heat map. On this heat map, I'm showing the top 3 customers again at the bottom. But over here on the left, this is by the product sold. So this will help us know which products our top customers are buying. So this is a little bit helpful to figure out where the revenue is coming in from. But at this point, we really don't see any issues. You know, everything looks up and up, and we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and move into one of the regulation reports that we've done for disclosure. This one here is again, the 606-1054A. It's the contract revenue summary. So I'm starting out with showing a summary of the top 5 revenue contracts. And down here again, there's indicators, as I had shown on the other screen. Now, when I move from here into the next one, I've got a posted revenue per period. And as I start looking through these numbers, I can see that there's an upward trend for revenue. And then, you know, it kind of peaks in periods 3 and 4, but then here in period 5, it drops quite significantly. And, you know, I don't know why that would happen. So I'm a little bit concerned with the revenue numbers. And so as I take a look here, I can click on period 4 and then period 5. And I know you can't see that here, but it shows that there's a $525 roughly amount that is a difference. So when I drill down into period 5 to take a look at those contracts, which is this next chart I'm showing, I can see that I have revenue posted for the first 3 contracts, but for the last 3, there's nothing in there. And that's a little bit concerning to me. I'm not sure why, we don't have revenue posted for those periods. There may be an issue with one or more of those contracts and how they're being posted in RAR. So, at this point, I really don't know what's going on. So I want to reach out to my finance manager to go look in RAR and see if we can find those contracts and find out what's wrong with them. So at this point, I'm going to introduce you to Vivek, a colleague of mine, who's going to share his presentation screens, and you're going to look at RAR live, and he's going to look into these contracts. So, John, can you go ahead and transfer that over?
All right. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vivek Thomas. I'm with Bramasol's RAR team working out of India. And so like Doug has mentioned, we have developed these reports on a variety of platforms. So what we have on the screen here is an example of that, where the exact same report that Doug was showing you, which is the revenue disclosure report, that's at 60610-54A report, that's available in ABAP as well. So let's start by, just to get a refresher, let's start by going ahead and running the same report on the ECC side of things as well, just to get an idea. Now, the idea behind developing reports on 3 parallel tracks, that is ABAP, BW, and on analytics, is you choose what solution works best for you. So some people might be more comfortable with ECC, that's quicker. Some people want better graphics. Some people want more drill downs. You choose what's best for your situation. So coming to this report, we see that, let's move over. We know that the problem is in the 5th period, that's May. And over here, we see that in May, we've got 3 contracts that were posted and 3 that were not. So the first 2 contracts, that's row number 1 and 3, those look fine because those contracts were over. They were completed. But the line number 4, that is a bit more problematic. The value matches what Doug mentioned, which is $525, but that's not posted. There can be many reasons why contracts don't post. We won't go into them during this demo. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and manually post it. So posting to FI is, let's first bring up the revenue schedule. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's search for the contract. Let's just reconfirm and see how the revenue schedule for this particular contract is. And as always, every sales order creates 2 contracts in RAR, one for IAS and one for GAAP. Let's open up the revenue schedule for GAAP, and we shall shortly take a look at that. There. So we see here that the revenue for period 5 has been recognized but not completely posted. That's a status there, that diamond symbol. So let's go ahead and post that manually. Let's copy the contract number over. So like I was beginning to say a short while ago, posting from RAR to FI is a 3-step process. So the first step is calculating time-based revenue. The second is calculating contract liabilities and assets. And the third is a posting run. So there are different technical reasons why these have been split up into 3 parts, which we won't go into during this demo. But we'll also show you some ways that Bramasol has developed to work around that problem. So we have done the calculation of the time-based revenue, the contract asset and liabilities. Those are also, let's do that as well quickly. And yeah, we're almost ready to do the posting run here. So as you can see, this takes time. Most companies will not need to do this manually. This is usually set up as a scheduled job that runs at a frequency appropriate to your business scenario. So this is the final step here that we have up and running. We will first do a simulation of the posting. There you go, that looks fine. We switch to the live posting mode. Let's choose a date. And I think we are good to go. So while this posting is going on in the background and Doug is refreshing his BW, the analytics data source, I'll just take a moment here to show one of the tools that we have developed, which is an automated tool to post to all the 3 steps that you just saw right now, where you first search for the contract, you do the time-based calculation of time-based revenue, contract liabilities and assets, and finally do the actual posting. Those 3 steps are performed in one go by our custom program. This is a part of the Bramasol toolkit that's been built by us to help our customers. So I think, Doug, is your system refreshed now? Are you good to show us the effects of our posting?
Hi, Vivek. Yes, I'm ready to go ahead and take control again.
All right. Over to you, Doug. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Vivek. So I went ahead and refreshed the data, so I'm back now looking at the boardroom. Let me go ahead and drill directly into this regulation report that we were looking at before. So when I come to the screen here, these numbers probably look familiar to you because they haven't changed. He did post revenue, but this particular chart is for the top 5 revenue contracts. And I believe you just posted that for around $525, right, Vivek? So given that the lowest one on this chart is 710, it wouldn't be a significant amount to affect this chart. So let me go ahead and move into the next chart, which is the posted revenue per period. And now we can see for May, the number has increased up to about the same amount that we had the previous 2 periods. So this actually looks really good to me as the head of accounting. I don't see any problem now with the revenue. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that particular period again. And when I look at that, I can see that there's a contract 427 that previously had a value of 0, and now it's got a posted value of 525. So everything looks really good to me. I don't, the revenue numbers look great, and I'm ready to go ahead and meet with my CEO and prepare for that meeting now. And so that concludes the live demo part of this. Again, what we did is I started out by showing some basic overview screens of revenue, and we were able to run through some basic charts just showing you where the revenue is coming from. And then we were able to drill down into specifics of this regulatory report and find an issue of revenue that wasn't posted that should have been posted. We went back, we posted that revenue, and we can now see the charts correctly in showing those numbers. And that really concludes that part. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the next slide here, which is going to be a summary that I'm going to pass back to Trevor.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that short demo of basically the standard interaction that goes on between various groups within finance every time you go through this the financial closure process of interaction between looking at your data, figuring out what the issues are, and then resolving them in order to make sure that the financial reporting is correct. So this chart you've already just seen earlier, which shows managing the business side with the legal regulations that you're going to be required to follow. So the reports that we've developed meet the quantitative requirements, as we said before. And now what we've been able to do is to link those to a standard analytics environment, so you can start to also use that data to figure out what is actually going on in your data, what's looking good, what isn't, and being able to resolve those problems and then make sure that your reporting is complete and accurate. So we've now created a linkage between the operational reports environment and the analytics part of your business with the legal reporting requirement. And we sort of use this mantra of insight to action. So you've seen that through this very simple demo of the insight side in the analytics, the action side with Vivek, and the connection of the two and how easy it is with the tools that we have shown here. So essentially, that's really wrapping up our demo for our webinar. There is a slide which I'll quickly show before we close the recording, which has a link to our website where you'll find an ebook on disclosure reporting. You can get more details about what we've talked about today. And that will also provide you with contact information about how you can get hold of us. And as John said in his poll earlier, there's quite a few of you who haven't started this journey or are about to. And those people who have just started this journey, we'd love to talk to you and provide you with any advice that we can help you with to help that journey as easy as possible. So with that, I'm going to hand back to John.
Trevor? Yeah, hey, Trevor. This is a terrific job, everybody, and thank you very much. This was really informative. There was a question on here, Trevor, that I know we touched on it earlier. How did we come to this group of 10 reports? What was it that drove us and you and your team to developing those specific reports?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. We did actually go through the whole of the regulations. If you remember, we talked earlier about there was about 23 segments to the overall regulation. And we broke down those regulations to both explanations, and a lot of the regulation just says, ask the question about, you need to explain what you were doing here, what your POBs are, how do you segregate your data, and so on and so forth. So there were basically, we separated out those requirements and then identified those regulations that basically required quantitative information. And so that's how we came about the 10. So we basically went through every regulation and split out those that required the reports versus those that were for explanation of those reports. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Trevor. Another quick question was, and I think we answered it, but I want to confirm, do you have to be on version 1.3 of RAR for this to work, or does it work on 1.2 and 1.3?
It works on either 1.2 or 1.3.
Thank you. Terrific. All right. Well, with that, everybody, that's all the questions that I had for now. I encourage you to reach out to Bramasol and to your account executives, ask questions. You're certainly welcome, as many of you do, post-webinar to reach out to me, and we will make sure that any questions or thoughts that you might have get answered. We are here to provide ongoing demos and additional information to any and all of you who want it. I know that disclosure reporting, as I visit with customers, is top of mind for many of you. So please feel free to reach out to us. We have a lot of both thoughtful, thought-provoking work that we've done with regard to creating a basic set of reports for you to use and get you started early, as well as with practical experience, having done probably 75 to 80% of the projects here in the U.S. Bramasol's been involved with. So I want to thank you all for attending. Let you know that our next webinar, which will be on August 24th for revenue recognition, will be an update from SAP. So Pete Graham, who is the product owner for RAR, as well as the development team, will be joining us for a discussion of the new quality and consistency checks. So I encourage all of you who are in projects to join us for this really important webinar. And we will also be hosting webinars on leasing and SAP S/4HANA as we go forward for the rest of the year. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a terrific day, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.